Welcome back, everyone, to Pickers Market, episode 59. It's going to be a big show today, guys. We got Tyler, like usual, running the keyboard over there.
Yep.
We got the Roaring Loon back with Kyle over there. And we have a special guest. We have an intern. We're going to put him on the show and see what he can do. His name is Sam. So we'll let him introduce himself and kind of talk about his little background, maybe where he's going to college and kind of what he's doing. So welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you, Keith. Well, as you just said, my name is Sam. I go to the University of Richmond out on the East Coast, where I play tennis and study finance and economics.
Awesome.
I just finished up my freshman year, and I've been here for a little more than a week. And
and you're behind a microphone. That's great. That's great. So you go to Richmond. Is that close to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, it's about 55 minutes away,
right.
I'd say.
Freshman year, how'd it go?
Went pretty well. College is pretty fun. I mean, they don't really lie about that.
Tyler, did you have fun in college?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you did. Kyle, how about you?
Same.
Yeah, college is good stuff.
Hard not to like it.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, and we get some subjects I think you can contribute to as well. So at least you're right in the thick of some of the stuff we'll talk about here. We'll start with our usual 2 truths and a lie, but we're going to change it up from our just numbers. We're going to talk about, since you're a tennis guru, we're going to do a little tennis facts here. So there's going to be 2 truths and 1 lie about tennis. A, there are 4 Grand Slam events, majors in tennis. B, there are 22 U.S. Open courts in the main facility at the U.S. Open. C, Rafi Nadal has won 21 Grand Slam majors. Those are your 3 options. Well, Sam, you're staying to the end. I don't want you answering first. So we'll start with Kyle. He looks like he might know this.
No, I know nothing about tennis. Yeah, I'm gonna go with C.
C, Rafi Nadal has 21 Grand Slams. You're saying is incorrect?
Correct.
All right.
Tyler,
what do you got?
That's true. At least it sounds right.
Okay.
I know he's won a lot, so
He's won a lot.
We'll go.
I'll give you that.
Grand Slams. That's like U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Okay.
You nailed one of them.
Well, you had.
There's more than
title,
one,
but
I'll give you that.
They're like at the tip of my head, but I can't.
That's fine. But I think our tennis savant over there will give us
4 sounds about right. So I guess I'll go with B.
B. All right.
It's probably like 25 or something.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a trick question. How about you, Sam? What do you got for this one?
Well, the answer is definitely C.
It is.
That is definitely the lie.
Wow, confident. I love this guy.
Only because I know he has 22.
Ooh.
So,
I mean, he has won 21, but he also won another one on top of that.
Look at this guy. We got a ringer in here, boys.
But yeah, there's the U.S. Open, the French Open, the Australian Open, and then Wimbledon. Those would be the 4. I didn't actually know that there were only 22 at the Billie Jean King Center, but
yeah,
apparently that's true.
Look, it even knows the center name. So
Jeez.
You nailed it. You pretty well summed it up. That's a mic drop for him. Way to start out your career on the microphone. That was awesome.
Boy.
So you nailed it exactly right. Rafi Nadal's got 22.
Okay.
Sam, an additional question. Then you know who's got the most majors and who are the big 3?
Well, the big 3 are Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer.
Yep.
Djokovic has the most at 24, followed by Nadal's 22 and Federer's 20.
Wow.
Jeez.
Sharp. All right. That's fantastic. That's we'll have to talk a little more tennis later in the show because that was actually pretty impressive, boys. Yeah. All right. Let's get to the hot button. We'll talk about the health of the job market. Last week we had our unemployment jobs number come out, 4.2%, very healthy. I thought that was interesting. You guys, any takeaways from the jobs numbers last week, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's generally, well, I guess I shouldn't say good. I'm mixed.
Yep.
And the reason I say that is unemployment stayed 4.2, which is good. Wage growth came in higher than expected, 3.9 versus 3.7, which is good. I mean, consumers have more money to spend, usually keeps the economy resilient. The problem came in when they revised the prior 2 months job numbers down by 95,000 jobs. So that's part of kind of an issue because those jobs no longer exist basically, or we didn't add those jobs when we thought we did. So I would say it's more of a mixed message last Friday than like this stellar thing that the market was hoping for. I
Yeah.
think the wage growth though is probably the best thing that the silver lining of it all.
And that came in at what, 3.9?
3.9.
Yeah, and so inflation's running around 2.4.
Well, we got it today, 2.4.
Yeah.
2.4, right?
Yeah.
So it's a delta of 1.5. So obviously, if you're making more than your inflation, that's generally a good sign.
Generally
Yep.
good.
Kyle, any other additional thoughts on?
No, I think Tyler hit the nail on the head there. It's mixed, something to keep an eye on for sure. As long as inflation kind of keeps,
Mhm.
in its lane, I think everything will be more or less fine. But it is interesting, looking at the demographics of the underlying kind of job market, like the BLS data over the last couple of months. Not all. It's not like just like that even number. There's a lot of variation underneath the hood. So I think we'll probably dig into that a little bit more, huh?
Well, you and I were talking, what was that, last week?
I think
2
so.
weeks ago about U5? U6?
U6 data,
U6.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So basically U3 is that headline number, that 4.2,
Mm-hmm.
all encompassing. And then U6 is, I would say, a more representative figure because it actually shows people who have been unemployed but have quit looking
yep.
after 6 months. So those numbers are higher than that the U3 number, that 4.2%. But even within that, you look at like graduate students from college who are looking into the job market, and then you look at just kind of the breakout of men and women, different age cohorts, all that stuff. It's very interesting to look at the data because you wouldn't think by looking at that 4.2 number that there would be such a wide variation of unemployment rates.
Yeah, and they're starting to get some. The other thing about unemployment is it's a lagging indicator, right? So we talk about a lot. It's important, and we always say if consumers are working, they have money in their pockets, they love to spend. But again, it's a lagging, and there's starting to be some cracks in the system. And I think you touched on it. You and I were talking yesterday. You showed me a chart about the college grads, and then not to scare you, Sam, but this is a chart. If you on the video here, it's going back to 1990. Generally speaking, if you went to college, a college grad, your unemployment rate was lower than the overall markets. But the last year and a half, 2 years, it's actually changed. We're actually seeing a little bit of a higher rate for college grads versus the overall unemployment rate. Any thoughts on that, Kyle, since you kind of pointed this out to me?
Yeah, I mean, the data was pretty interesting. So basically, the unemployment rate for the recent grads is over 5%. It's like 5.5%.
That's great, right? Usually, normally it's like a 4-year degree.
Right.
You should be lower than the overall general population.
Right, and
historically, that's been the case.
Coming into the workforce, you're kind of the lowest paid on the totem pole in general, and so it's just easier to pick up that young talent that's coachable, craftable, and you can.
They don't have any bad habits.
Right, they don't have bad habits.
Right,
yet.
Sam? Do you got any
Right.
bad habits yet?
Yeah. Tell
2
Hopefully
weeks
not.
in.
Yeah. But it is interesting. So in the data that we were talking about yesterday, they broke it out by majors, and the kind of the shocking data point for me was computer science. If you have that as a major, it's the third worst rate of unemployment at 7.5% right now.
That's
Which
mind-boggling,
yeah,
right?
it's
Because that was
crazy.
the category that for the last 2 decades that you wanted to major in.
Right. And the other on the converse side, construction services, 0.7% unemployment. So you're pretty much guaranteed a job.
You come out.
Well, I mean, there's still demand on the construction side, and there's probably computer science, the amount of graduates that have a major of construction versus the amount of graduates who have a major of computer science. There's probably a lot more that have computer science just because that's where the push has been towards.
Yeah.
Versus construction. So I'm guessing there's also the amount and just the pure demand. I would guess is probably also part of that.
Yeah, but the demand for IT jobs has been off the charts.
Yeah, but think about this though. Like if you're open AI, you're probably only going to take a handful of college graduates.
Probably not at all.
Or at
with
all.
AI
right?
will take care of itself.
I think that's the thing.
But you want to have more experienced hands at work there,
right?
So you got to get your feet wet a little bit at a smaller shop, maybe not as complex type of coding,
right?
So I think that's probably also part of it.
I do think it's the AI. I think on the
Mhm.
low end computer programmer that
Right.
now you can see, you can just type in whatever verbiage you can tell, create a program does XYZ
Yeah.
in any of these AI, whether it's
I've seen
Claude
I've
or
I've seen Keith vibe coding here at work.
Kyle, speaking of programming, Kyle, I graduated with a math computer science major, so that was a long time ago. So obviously that was pretty high demand. And Kyle, I see that you, once in a while walk by, not only are you looking at numbers and investments, but you're doing a little bit of programming too as
Yeah.
well. Is that, self-taught, or did you go to school for that?
Self-taught. It's easy. It's free to do. You just have to put the investment in yourself and
Yep.
have a project that you can apply it to. So I mean, it's amazing the stuff that you can teach yourself for free.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then have you used AI to help you with your, or
Uh,
not yet really? Is it
yeah.
more?
So I mean, AI is kind of a loose, wiggly term in
Yeah,
these
for sure.
days. People think about it like a Chat GPT. So for that, the answer is not really. But in the last decade, when I was at my previous shops, we were using neural network stuff and machine learning. So those are forms of unsupervised machine learning, which is a form of AI. So yeah,
Which
interesting stuff.
AI is funny because, again, I long time graduate, as a software engineer. All these software programs is what AI is, and now just with the chipsets being more powerful, NVIDIA, bringing it back to the stocks, that's basically the company that enabled all the stuff to be quicker, faster,
Right.
and to be able to do it because it's always been around for these different programs. It's all just so much easier and quicker, and
Right.
the ability to learn. So I think that's fascinating. Sam, hopefully we're not scaring you with this on this college grad stuff. Are you? Is your major going to be computer science?
Fortunately not.
Okay,
according
how-
to this, but
How about construction engineering? Is that on your list?
can't say I know any construction engineers
Yeah,
that
okay.
are at my school. But
Well, what's your major right now? I know it's only been 1 year, and so that could change.
yeah, it's most likely going to be finance and economics. I might change the economics to accounting. Not really sure yet. but
Okay.
I still got at least a little bit of time.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the computer science that I've heard over the past probably like 5-10 years, um, in elementary and middle school, they had us coding a bunch, doing like just little tiny coding things that were super easy. But then they're just trying to push everyone over there. And then in the past, probably 3-ish years, ever since, especially like these bigger AIs like ChatGPT and everything have came out, it's good enough to code for most low level things.
Yeah.
So I think most of the like computer science majors would be looking to go work at the big either AI or like Google, Microsoft, etc.
Mhm.
But those companies are never going to hire the recent college grads because they'd rather have the experienced 30-some-year-olds who have been doing it for 10 years instead of the fresh out of school kids. And these kids are just struggling to find any of the lower end computer science things because now AI can just do most of it for them.
Yeah, that's
you-
surprising that you picked that up already. Come and go ahead, Tyler.
Do you have any like friends that have graduated that you play tennis with, or friends that have graduated college yet?
I have a couple
few?
friends. One's just like a senior. He goes to Johns Hopkins. So he's obviously not dumb whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he's a computer science major
Okay.
and is just really struggling to find a lot of internships or even like job opportunities because he just says that there's just so many computer science majors or even like people who are already graduated like a
Yeah.
couple years out. There's just too many right now. The supply is just way too big for the actual demand.
What
for the
I'm
computer
curious about is
science.
is just in general, like outside of computer science, like any of your friends that have graduated or near graduation, like whether it's computer science or finance or healthcare, like is it just a general hard to find a job for your friends? Or I mean, you're just freshmen, right? So it's probably a few years out, but if the friends that you do have that might be a little bit older.
Yeah, I have a couple people who I used to play with probably 5 years ago that I still keep in touch with at least a little bit. And a lot of them are struggling to find jobs unless they have some form of like some form of connection within the company, and normally it has
Sure.
to be a
Parent.
decently high
Yeah.
up company, a parent.
Tyler, come on now. Is that how you get the job here?
Yeah.
No, that's great insight. It's really crazy that, you know, me being older, I don't pay as close attention. I have a couple kids in college now. I guess obviously I should be paying more attention. Fortunately, I guess none of them are in computer science. Man, that's eye shocking. That's a degree, and it's that you're picking up that in the last couple of years. You're absolutely right. I think this AI is a game changer for that low end programmer that normally would get in and then work themselves up to that, you know, person with experience. And now that's not around anymore. So,
but it does make me think too, like just that kind of dynamic of oversupply into that particular major, and then the changes that we've seen with, you know, the low hanging fruit and AI to automate and pull those things away. It's almost like the durability of, you know, the real economy. You know, you think about like the tradesmen and women out there that are doing HVAC and plumbing and, you know, all these things. It's like those construction, right? That those jobs can't be automated away by an LLM. So it is interesting to see what the next decade will bring as you kind of get this flushing out of all of these extra, you know, major holders in computer sciences.
Yeah, I think it's going to bring a renaissance to the trades industry. And obviously, you know, Tyler's built a house recently and had, you know, people come over. It's it's not cheap if you can't do a lot of stuff yourself. And you're right, it's something that AI can't touch. So that's definitely, we've always talked, even last year when we did the first start of the podcast, that we think it's great trade schools, and it's you're exactly right. I think it's going to be interesting with this AI putting more pressure on some of these white collar jobs, especially these, if you know, healthcare is a little different, right? If you're a doctor, things like that, but still AI is going to, you know, displace maybe some of the engineers in the med tech field that they can do faster. You know, Minnesota is a big hotbed for med tech. So, you know, hopefully it enhances the people that are there, that they can free up time to do something else. So it's good. All right, let's speaking of college, we'll just jump into that right now. The prices of college. It's, you know, obviously your Sam's in there right now, but I thought it was surprising. I was reading a story the other day of, you know, obviously everybody here's tuition. I got 3 kids going into college next year, so I'm well aware how it impacts the college, you know, the wallet. But inflation for college from, you know, 1980 to 2020 was up almost 8.5% per year, which you look at versus inflation's, you know, at around 3%. And I think that's astonishing. It's crazy, you know, that you would think tuition, generally speaking, is, you know, a little bit, there's, you know, there's public ones versus private, but there would certainly be incentivizing, you know, students to become more educated and kind of, you know, help with their overall fields. And that would be cheaper, not more expensive than inflation. So you guys have any thoughts on kind of where we're going there? And
I mean, I think part of it is just colleges investing in creating larger campuses, better experienced campuses, more staff. I would imagine if you looked at the staff of colleges back in 1980 versus the staff of colleges today, they're probably significantly larger as well, right?
I was reading the details, exactly right.
I mean, you've got, depending on what you're looking at too, like how much, like what goes into the cost of tuition specifically. Are they including any of the housing stuff too, or is it just pure tuition?
Yeah, most of it includes everything. Depends on, you can slice and dice it how you want, but that's the inflation that 8%.
Because I actually did some homework and looked up, because this is like the total cost of attendance is what I looked up, and like Northwestern University, $89,000 a year, right? University of Chicago, 86, Columbia, 86, UPenn, 85, Pepperdine, 85, Yale, 85. USC 85, right?
Wow.
Like, it's just incredible.
And then you times that by 4, right?
Yeah.
So you're over $250,000.
You go graduate school, master's or doctorate or whatever you want to do. Like, master's programs aren't cheap either, right?
No, they're
most
generally more
masters
expensive.
Are like 85 as well per year. Tack on that another 2 years. I mean, it's just incredible. But
I think people start doing the math at that point, though. What's the ROI on it? Like, you know, if you go in and you're getting an accounting major, you know, or like a history major or English major, like $300,000-$400,000, it's never going to work. It's almost like at that point the system's a little broken, right?
I think that's where we're kind of at, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, that's like, so my mom was a portfolio manager at US Bank private wealth management, and they had to have their masters and CFAs to be a portfolio manager.
Mhm.
But it's also it's U.S. bank, so it's not like they get paid a lot. So it's like, what is that actual
Mhm.
to
The
go?
payback.
Yeah, like to actually go and get your MBA just to be a PM at a U.S. bank.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
does it really pay off?
It'll be interesting now if the tables are starting to tilt towards the more that blue collar jobs, which obviously the trade schools generally are shorter
Mhm.
and not nearly as expensive. And if your payback is to be way quicker, and
Right.
ultimately you could be just have as high a salary, if not more.
Well,
that-
I would imagine it would probably be more because if you're, if you're in the trades, think about how many just on the way to work today, how
Mhm.
many vans and trucks you see
Mhm.
with the LLC on the side.
Yeah.
You go get your degree and become an electrician or whatever, do landscape, whatnot. You're now 1099 and you're getting all the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Versus your W-2 where you don't really get that same benefit. So you might make less on the top line number, but the bottom line's way higher after taxes because you get all the bennies that
Benny
go
from
with
it,
it,
yeah.
right?
No, we're in interesting times for sure. And then, the college cost that, those numbers that the 70, 80,000. I looked at the
Mhm.
average. I think the private was around 56,000, average. Because
Yep.
those are the
Mhm.
higher end. The publics are around 28, which kind of makes sense. It's not cheap out there. I mean, unless maybe like Sam, if you get a scholarship from tennis, at least I hope that at least help offset some of the bills there at Richmond, because Richmond's it's a private school, correctly? It's a smaller school.
Yeah,
right?
it's a pretty small liberal arts school, kind of similar to a lot of the ones that that he just read off, like Yale and all
Yeah.
the all the Ivies, but it's obviously not an Ivy, but
Yeah.
it's a small liberal arts
Jeez,
school,
we're
just like
we're
all
sitting
of
with an
those.
Ivy Leaguer.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, Sam. That's awesome.
Well, so the other part of this too is, so you had mentioned in your doc that the rate of college tuition right now is 2.7.
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of slowed here recently.
yeah. So I on the radio they were talking about the U of M was raising tuition again. So I just went back and looked.
Mm.
So the U of M for Twin Cities campuses and Rochester campuses, they're raising 6.5%, and
Wow.
then
What?
across all campuses for out of state tuition, they're raising 7.5% for all out of state. So now I think out of state for the U of M is like 34,000 a year. In state's 16.
Wow.
So now you're raising that by 6.5 and then 7.5. But they're also decreasing academic budget as well. On top of
Wow.
that, by 7%.
I have one of my oldest is in the grad program at the University of Minnesota, so I am expecting my bill to be going up 6.5%. Is that what you're telling me?
Mhm.
Mm, lovely.
So
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Let's hope the market goes up today.
Hey.
Offset quite
very
a
bad
few.
news. But I just thought it was interesting because, like, if the average is 2.7, U of M is, and who knows what, I didn't look back at what the previous inflation rates for tuition at the U of M was. It might have been
Mhm.
below.
No, I don't
what
think
the
so
average
because
was.
again, back to my daughter, she went to the University of Madison the previous 4 years, and that was going up that 5-6%. And I think university they do the reciprocal tuition, so I think that was pretty comparable.
Yeah.
So it's certainly not cheap yet. Sam, have you got your bill for the next year? Has it gone up by 5-6%? Do you have any idea, or don't know yet? Hopefully the scholarship's covering a lot.
Yeah,
of it
right.
for
When I
you.
was a college kid, I didn't even look.
Yeah, the bill comes in a couple, like 4 or 5 weeks.
4 or
so
5 weeks, you don't have to sweat it out yet.
No, I do not.
Oh, that's,
Fortunately,
that's good for you. Yeah, tuition is not cheap by any means. And it's
No.
like I said, I'll have 3 in next year, and it's just like, whew, that's a hard pill to swallow. And
Mhm.
it's like if my kids had a little more trade orientation, I think that would have been a pretty good field. But at least they're going for stuff that I'm hoping is not AI replacement, like a pharmacist,
Mhm.
a nurse, and who knows what yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll see.
Does Jack have any inclination for a specific field? Finance,
He just
engineering?
actually funny you say that. So he's going to St. John's. He's going to play tennis. It's D3 where we got Sam the rock star. He's D1, so it's Sam's fantastic. But he's going to St. John's and he's thinking biochem.
Wow.
And so yeah, he's a good student. And then he says maybe he wants to be like an anesthesiologist. I'm like, really? It's just okay. So you
It's
want
like
to get on?
16 years of school.
Yeah, it's like. We'll see this with his tuition costs. I mean, that's at least one of those fields. Whether that, I think that's
Mhm.
less AI replacement, right? So I do think there's.
Yep.
So I do have that in the back of my mind. Is okay. I prefer him to actually go our route. I've been pushing him on financial services, and I know a couple friends that are advisors. I think maybe he should go kind of just see what that's all about. Sam, how's your first 2 weeks, by the way? Has it been good? Did you like what you've seen so far? Or is it just kind of complete too much?
Yeah, it's been interesting so far. It's been nice to kind of get to know everyone here and kind of get to understand what everyone does at least a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because when I came in, I didn't know that much,
No.
and now I at least know relatively what most of the people do, and kind of
Yeah, you kind of know what an analyst maybe does, maybe a portfolio manager, and then over the next few weeks, you'll learn kind of what trading does and kind of our sales team and things like that. Because did you have in high school? I assume you did a lot of maybe tennis lessons and things like that. Did you have a job where you were working in a business or your family, anything like that? You followed around or not really?
the closest thing I'd say working in a business was starting my own quote business as a tennis coach, and that was
Oh.
not a legit business. So
Nah, but I mean, you at least had some experience. But yeah, this is nice being actually in a building with, a couple hundred people, cubes, and kind of, okay, this is how corporations work. And there's different sizes. Kyle's worked at bigger ones, and I've worked at bigger ones. Tyler, you bigger and
I've had
smaller, right?
internships at bigger ones, but
Yeah. So
I guess
it's
working at US Bank.
so I would say this place it'll give
We
you
were
a
in a
good feel of
branch.
how generally that works. All right, let's switch to spaghetti wall before we finish here. And since you know, Tyler kind of alluded to the fact that my last one is actually just graduated from high school, which made me reflect this last week that, it's kind of high school coming to an end. It's kind of bittersweet, be an empty nester, but we'll do a little spin on kind of high school experience. And especially since we have a newbie that's kind of fresh in his memory of, we'll do buy, sell, or hold on your high school experience. How about that? Do you want to start out? By buy, I mean, you loved it. Great time. By, hold was, yeah, it was good. It was fine. I'm ready to move on. And sell is like, yeah, give me out of high school. I'm looking for something bigger and better. This is not the place for me. How about you, Tyler?
See, I have a hard time with this. Because like Benilde was great. I loved it. It was small.
Yeah.
And
Benilde's a private high school, by
part
the
of it
way.
is I was ready to just like, you're with the same exact people for 4 straight years, and whether you hate them or love them.
Yeah.
That part I was like, okay, time to move on to something else. But like hockey, friends, right? State championship.
Yeah, by the way, we got a shout out. Where's your clap there? Let's get a shout out to
Yeah.
clap to yourself.
Yeah.
State high school championship's a big deal in hockey.
But like that experience, right? All the hockey buddies that I played with there, absolutely loved it. Loved my teachers, loved the school. But
Yeah.
So a little bit of mix, I guess.
Okay. So there's no, I mean, if we had to pin you down.
I guess I'd say I'd buy it.
All right.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to go long short.
Yeah, it was like I'm shorting it. All right, Kyle, the Roaring Loon. What do you got for your high school experience and looking back?
Yeah, I'm a little mixed too. I did like it, like the friends, I played football for a couple of years until everybody grew up past me. Not a very tall man, so. But yeah, I was very glad to move on to the next thing. I mean, college was really great.
That was good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, good. So, how about Sam? Since you're the newest and you're probably the most kind of experienced, or at least recollection of it. So, what are your thoughts on it?
yeah, I don't have to reflect back quite as far.
Yeah.
Just like 15 months. But overall, I would definitely say buy. But if I had to go year by year, I would sell every single piece of stock that I have of my freshman year.
Oh, wow. Freshman was tough, huh? I didn't like it.
Well, it was just during COVID times. We
Oh.
were half online, half in school. Everyone was wearing masks. It was not a fun year. But
Yeah, that's fair.
If I could just take sophomore through senior year, I would buy a lot of it.
I love the breakdown. That's strong.
Well, forgot about COVID.
Yeah, I did too, and especially you as being a.
I'd be curious when, in like 3 years, when he goes through his full 4 years of college, if he still is as adamant on a buy as that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll give you my spin, then we'll get back to Sam on. You're funny that you say that on the COVID, because I had kids in high school, and my oldest was a senior, so she kind of robbed her of her senior year. So I think that kind of certainly took away from her high school experience, and then going into her first year of college, that was tough. My son playing tennis, like you, do you remember having to wear masks outside playing tennis? Wasn't that just ridiculous?
Brutal.
Understanding.
Yeah, especially if you played doubles, you always had to wear a mask.
Yeah.
It was just so. You were outside. I just didn't understand.
No, no one does. Which is like, it's just like I get pictures as we were going through this graduation stuff of my son playing tennis on a court by himself with the person on the other side, and they're wearing masks, and you're so far apart. It's just kind of crazy to think about.
Mhm.
Well, for hockey, I think
hockey was
Mhm.
but
the kids were wearing them all down, right? Because you're
Yeah.
drinking water and everything else.
and like I
so.
was at the time I was playing in a men's league for hockey too, and the rule was if you were out on the ice playing, you could have it off, but as soon as you got back to the bench, you had to put it back on, and no one ever put it back on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
I'm
it
out on
was
the
a
ice breathing all over everybody, and
strange time.
Yeah.
So me personally, I'm being the oldest, and so my memory is starting to fade a little bit. But I would say it's a strong buy. I just loved high school. It was good. I mean, college was great too, and just all. But I still got good high school friends, and we just had my son's high school graduation party. And
Where did you go?
I went to Albany High School. So small. 100
Mhm.
graduated 150. I played multiple sports. You knew everybody. Played football. It was great. It was just a fun experience. I'm still friends with a lot of those guys. So nothing but good memories there. And I think hopefully that it sets the foundation going forward. Which surprisingly, that was boy a long time, 12 or 30 some years ago. And don't even want to say how many years it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's still friends with, like I said, 3 of the good guys I see quite frequently, and it's just fun to hang out. Sam, before we leave, high school experience. Let's talk about state tennis tournament last weekend. Kind of, do you got any fond memory? Obviously, that's probably why you like it as well. You did very well, and kind of any fond memories of the state tennis tournament?
Yeah, most of my memories of state were pretty fond, at least. As long as it was before the semifinals, they were very fond. After that, it never went well, but that's fine. But yeah, I think that was part of the reason that I loved high school. Is the spring tennis season was always fun as long as there wasn't
long as
still
you were
snow on
doing
the
well.
ground.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the snow. Did you ever have to shovel off your courts? I remember helping my son and his
Yeah.
team shovel off
Yeah, we
courts.
shoveled off my sophomore and junior year, I think.
Yeah.
And that was so not fun.
Now in Richmond, I assume you don't have to be shoveling any snow in spring.
No, it snowed once this year, about a half inch. We had 2 days off school. It was great.
Whoa.
Wow. That's
Soft.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So good experience though, huh?
Yeah, it was super
State.
fun.
Yeah. No. All right. On that note, everybody, hopefully we solved everybody's issues here, and like and subscribe.